Okay, so the next pattern I'm going to show you how to sew is the cross circles, which looks like this. Looks very complicated, but it's actually pretty straightforward to sew. And you need a quite a lot of pricking out. You need a 72 point circle, and as you can see, there's two circles that we use to sew the pattern. The circle around the outside, you can see it better that way. The circle around the outside has 72 holes in it, and the circle on the inside has 36 holes in it. So you can make a template with 72 holes. You can just use your same 36 point template, but you could put some extra holes in it. If you want to make a fresh one, you're just putting holes every 5 degrees around that circle rather than every 10 degrees, which you did for your 36 point circle. 360 degrees in a circle. So every 10 degrees will give you 36 points, and every 5 degrees will give you 72 points. So it doesn't really matter what the distance is between these two circles. You can, as long as you've got 36 on the inside, 72 on the outside. Okay, and again, you can start anywhere you like on this circle. This is what it's going to look like eventually. I like them when they're a bit kind of off centre, sort of off kilter, but you can make them be exact if you want. Where you start on the circle affects where these bits sit, where they sit on the circle. So if you do want it dead on, you'll have to start at a point that's dead on the top. Otherwise, just start anywhere you like on the circle and see what happens. What you need to find is you need to start on one of the holes on the outside, doesn't matter which, as long as it's one that is directly opposite one on the inside. Obviously, because you've got 72 on the outside, 36 on the inside, some of them won't line up. So I use a thread to just find a hole that will line up, and then you can see that you're cutting that circle directly in half. So this hole here is the one, and I usually use my thumb just near it, hold it like that, so that I can see that that's the one I need to go through. That's the front, this is the back, so I can see which hole I need to get through there. That down. And then you're sewing across into the one on the inside that's directly opposite the hole where you started on the outside. So it just goes across like that. And then I'm going to sew into the next one along backwards from that hole, so that when you sew through, you're going to sew over that thread that you started with. And what you're going to end up doing is going this way, anti-clockwise, round the inside circle, and clockwise round the outside circle. So we're going to go one back on the inside circle, anti-clockwise, and we're going to sew over the top of that one, just like in lots of the other patterns, over the top, and then you're going clockwise around the outside, so you're going to sew into the next one along. So and you just keep going like that. It takes quite a long time to sew this one because there's so many holes, but you just keep doing the same thing, and you just keep going around that circle, and you'll see that they start to cross over the inside of the circle, and that pattern starts to emerge. And you can see that those threads start to go across the middle of the circles. And you'll get to a point here where you start to come up in between the pieces of thread, and you just want to make sure that where you don't need to cross over, you're working out which side of the piece of thread to go on. If you go on this side, sometimes it can really pull at this bit of thread that you've gone over the top of, and it can make these go out of parallel, and then it doesn't look so good. So what I try and do is always, even if it means pushing that bit of thread out of the way, go on the inside so you're not going over the top of that bit of thread and pulling it. Now there it's fine because it's right in the middle, it's not going to pull that thread. On this one again, it's in the middle, so it's not going to pull. But some of these a bit further along, here you want to come on that side, so sort of push that out of the way and make sure that you're not going over the top and pulling it like that so that it comes out of parallel with the rest. And keep going around those circles. Quite easy on this one to see where you need to go next because it's often quite clear where you've stuck down. So just that's not quite as confusing as on some of the other patterns. So when you start again, you're just crossing over. So you're beginning to get the same effect here as you had at the beginning when you started. Again here, even though that hole is on the other side of that piece of thread, I'm going to go on this side, push the thread out of the way a bit, go in the hole there so that it doesn't pull at that thread and drag it out of parallel. And then across to the next hole on the inside circle. It's beginning to cross over again in the middle here. Now, you'll come to a point where you've sewn into every hole on that inside circle. It's kind of easier to see on the back because you could see with this running stitch that we've got again, you've got quite a lot of holes left on the back, but you've sewn around all of them on the inside. But you just keep going, so you're actually going to sew into all of these holes twice, but you're only going to sew into the outside holes once because you've got twice as many on the outside as on the inside. So you just keep going. Into that next hole. That's one you've already sewn into, but you've sewn it the other way. So you'll see again that you're sewing that running stitch. You're sewing that running stitch, so there's always gaps, so you're not sewing into the gaps. If you have sewn into the gaps, then you've probably done something wrong, you need to come back. And you can see on here how each one is sewn into twice on the inside and once on the outside. So you'll know you're finished with this one now when you get to this final hole all the way around the other side of the outside circle. So just keep going. And you'll see it begin to come together. So as you're coming near to the end, you'll know because you've just got a few holes left on this larger outside circle. It does get a little bit tricky to see which hole's next as it gets more complicated, especially on that inner circle. But just make sure you're always going into the next hole along, trying not to pull the threads out of kilter. Make sure you're coming up on the right side of them each time. Of course, if you're not sure, you think you might have missed a hole, just check on the back, see if you've still got those gaps. If you haven't, you've probably done something wrong. You might have missed a hole. And when you get to that final hole on the outside, you know that you're done. And then you'll see that one's all finished.